So this is a little bit crazy.
We cut off just at a really interesting point.
Sorry. Please keep talking. The rest of us will be quiet. I'm serious.
No, I mean, there was one last phrase that was just sort of like, you know, as language is a, you know, container of culture, that, you know, how do we use text to, you know, create social change?
Mm-hmm.
And we also were at the point that we made this very basic links to our experiences within growing up in democracy and talking about what actually democracy is or has been changed to. And one very simple link to our education that I wanted to make is that, and I guess many of you share it age-wise, that we grew up with some kind of rules being applied to the language we use. Like, don't lie to your parents, don't lie to your teachers, or don't, you can say like, you can say bad things if you are in a terrible mood, but don't say asshole. Like asshole is a no-go, or some very basic rules like that. And in our group, we were just talking about, I can give it this as a little summary, that we get to the very kind of, depressing conclusion also in other breakout sessions, that there seem to be, despite the many possibilities we have with text nowadays, technology-wise, media-wise, and so on, there don't seem to be any rules about how to use language in a way that we don't feel depressed, that we, communicate in a way that does make sense, it brings us forward, and so on. These were the points we were at in our group at the moment.
I think that's very related to the group that I just entered. Pip was making the point of diversity in the group. And we have been thinking, some of us, on how to choose those who would like to collaborate in the future further. And it seems to me to be very, very obvious that what we really need is more different voices in this community. So if we could find ways to introduce, first of all, and this is the hard part I've been working on, I'm sure you've been dealing with the same, just telling people that text matters is actually really hard. If we can manage to do that into new communities, to get new perspectives, and I'm talking, you know, obvious things like male, female, continents, but also different kinds of brains. There are many different kinds of personalities. How can we as a community make the second edition of this book so varied that half of it we will not understand? Can that be our goal?
Yeah, I'm already there.
Yeah, so
I don't understand half of it.
I'm sure it's the opposite half that I don't understand, Chris.
Two ideas on that, just quickly. First would be to think of a topic or a question for the second edition, like Frode, like you did for these talks. You asked for a 3-minute piece, just following up the sentence, the future of text is. I found this super helpful. Super helpful. This gives a guiding line, and I would very much opt for such kind of guiding line for the second edition, or question, or asking for a definition. What is text for you? Anything. And second idea is that we as participants might think about, like, one person we know, we get to know, we find out, to ask for collaboration, having in mind the diversity thing. So I could, for example, look amongst my students with a background from a different culture, and not like randomly ask all of my colleagues, but that student, I would ask her or him, like in a mentoring situation. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this would be two ideas: a topic and asking specific people we know.
I have a good idea for a topic.
Yeah.
Which would, you'd have to phrase it more tightly, but the best way I can phrase it right now is, A view from 2100, how text saved the human race.
I'd like to follow up on what Frody said about the different things. I think we need dyslexic people and blind people and people whose physical interaction with text is very, very different than I would think most of the people here. So not only the sociological variety, but the cognitive style variety.
My interaction with text is very different to most people's.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephanie. Absolutely, that is a huge point. And also, I want more people from the military, and I want more people from government. I want more people from sports. You know, embodied cognition we talk about. What about people whose entire thing is embodied? Right? These are people who think very different. I have friends in the military who have amazing insights, but they're not really allowed to talk about this. We need more of that. Because in their world, certain things are very clear. And business people have a completely different point of view, but it's just as valid if we're going to work together. So yes, if we could manage to gather a community around you, like Sonia was talking about and Stephanie was talking about, people that we know are a bit different, try to draw them in. That would be really quite powerful. Jeremy, I think you also raised your hand digitally.
Yes, thank you. So it seems like we have a starting point here, and I just want to affirm the view towards bringing in more diversity to the book. And I think, as Christopher was saying, you know, there's already a gap in terms of how understandable it is, and for me that points to one goal of, you know, and I see it as, you know, what is the container or the way to publish the book in such a way that for that half that I don't understand, I can engage with it in a way where it's in a sense creating a translation between, you know, what the author's written and myself, so that and you know, having this this functionality in place would then allow us to, as we, you know, broaden the diversity, that then there's the opportunity to then share the understanding of that diversity, you know, cooperatively.
Yeah, before I call two other raised hands here, some of us in the community have talked about different notions of glossaries for at least 20 years. In the software through Visual Meta now, we have the most basic, ridiculously stupid glossaries you could ever imagine. They only have one benefit, and that is that they do actually exist.
Yeah.
So
well, anything that's worth doing is worth doing poorly. So I'll acknowledge you that way.
Exactly. So I would love to have a discussion with you guys over time, how we can make, again, using your rich description there, into something around shared glossaries. Patrick, I think you raised your hand. Where are you? So many beautiful faces. Where are you? Okay, well, Patrick, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I think I'm sorry. I think I forgot my point.
We'll come back to you then. Joe, did you want to say something while Patrick is?
Yep. Yeah, really quick about the reaching people. Yes, it's another edition. I think that it's interesting to keep in mind readers, and look out over at least the first half of the year, who's reading it, who's citing it, who's talking about it, and anyone who hasn't come along, you know, if they're an interested fan, invite them, and maybe there'll be kind of a spreading activation. But then the other question is to flip that a little bit and say, who do we want to read it that isn't reading it, and try to get it into their hands, and then that could be a way to also broaden the pool of contributors.
Yeah. So I'm astounded that we still have a screen full of text people here. It's just absolutely incredible. I'm going to be flying on helium for the next week. But in order to continue these discussions, feel free to join any of the Monday or Friday meetings, same time. Some of you already are there. Maybe we can decide on how to have something in a written format after that to keep this going. If we maybe, I am hosting a blog. You can all have accounts, or if you have your own blog, we could have a journal that's relatively loose there. And then what Sonia was talking about, having very specific questions in the book. Yes, I would like that. So not only do we say you only have so little to write, these are the specific topics, but this is something the community has to design together. And now that we have an actual book, we can do that. I think Jeremy is raising his hand again.
I'm raising my hand for Mark. Mark has his physical hand raised.
Sorry,
Oh.
because I don't know how to do it the other way. Please, me.
Yes, Mark.
Just a thought. Actually, room 8 was actually suitably out there to finish up. That was a good way to finish up the session. But it was something Richard made about a comment he made to me about the resistance of materials to the artists and things. That just reminded me that a lot of the sort of talk thus far had been about sort of doing the opposite. Trying to make things work better and things. And I am just reminded that. I suppose we rephrase it in terms of the unknown unknowns. If you're not seeing any unknown unknowns, you're probably not doing it right. So there's this really interesting tension about how you keep friction in systems that, in any other sensible frame, you would wish to have no friction. And I don't know the answer to that, but I'm just popping that in the mix.
That's a good point, Mark. And before we go to Stephanie, who's got her hand raised, just going back on a few things. Yes, let's all focus on getting people to read the book. We can all pretend we're selling someone else's book, because that's the way it is. And almost all of us here, but not all of us, have contributed to this edition. But maybe we have a small gathering at, let's say, roughly 3 months around Easter, where we go from, okay, we've spread the word as far as we can. Then we can have a discussion together of who we should target to maybe contribute to this next book.
Good idea.
Okay, so we'll meet up in something like 3 months. Okay, yeah, Stephanie, please.
I can't remember the name of this reference book. It's something like a dictionary or encyclopedia of untranslatable words. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Which one I'm referring to? You do?
It's one of Howard's books, Howard Rheingold.
No, it's not. It's done by
Howard's book.
Two
Okay,
women. It's very, but I thought would be actually a wonderful target thing to look at, because they've already been identified as. I'll look it up and get the actual thing. But the whole idea that we're looking at text and some terms have been already singled out as not traveling well across languages. It would be probably we can learn something from these terms, is what I'm thinking.
That is very interesting. Okay, Patrick, but Valentina just reminded me, the Monday and Friday meetings are the same time as today's event. So you don't have to worry about time zones. Just remember when they started. It's also on the same channel. So you have everything you need to. Yeah, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, I remembered my thought. I was just saying that I'd been involved in some experiments with Aaron Manning and Brian Masumi up at UCOM and Concordia in their Sense Lab. And the thing is that Aaron's, work is all about, the notion of, embodied thought, and movement. And the interesting thing is that she did her study with Barth, and her argument with Barth was saying that there are things outside the text. There's embodiment, there's affect, there's all these things, so the thing is that she might be they might be interesting people to pull into the conversation. I mean, they're really lovely people too.
Okay, that sounds like great candidates to discuss at that next meeting. Jerry, you haven't spoken. So.
Yeah. Just a very quick question. I really thought that by next year, that the future of text shouldn't be a book. It should be sort of augmented text in whatever form, probably augmented social media. It shouldn't be a book.
I don't
We
agree
should
with
at
that.
least strive for that. You can print a book out of it, but let's have a book which has behind it all that augmented text.
I agree with you.
Anybody agrees with that? I would like to see that.
I see some nice hand movements on
Okay.
that, but a couple of things on that point, and that is, I don't even know where to start, but one of the goals of what we're doing here is to inspire action now, absolutely. But another one is, and I'm not joking, to read this in 1,000 years. I think that's really important. I'm studying computer science under Wendy and these people, and they're all lovely. But shockingly, so much of digital text I cannot cite, I cannot find it. Do you know where the first digital text appeared? Nobody knows. It's probably on Project Whirlwind, it's probably in this building, probably in this day. So much of it is gone. We absolutely need to do what you're doing, Jury, and I know Marc-Antoine agrees. We've been going through this before, but we have to find ways that it can be embodied for the future. Otherwise, we're literally writing in sand. And I think that's our challenge, to combine the robustness of physical media with the digital augmentations. Of course, that's what I'm trying to do with visual meta. That's the whole point of it. But I'm sure there are many other approaches we should look into. Ismail, you haven't spoken, so you first, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up what you just said, because it's something that Vint and I and you and others have been discussing as well. As you say, writing in sand and all of that stuff disappearing is one side of that equation. The other side of that equation is just the enormous explosion of material that's being put on the net, especially if you look at videos, social media, etc., etc., etc. We're adding more than a zettabyte a day. I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of material. So if you're projecting that into the future, and you're saying, you know, we don't want to lose where was the first text piece in ASCII or whatever it was digital. We have a very big risk of being torn between two almost non-compatible objectives.
Yes.
Too much material to try to protect, and then at the same time, not enough protection for particular things that we want. Same problem we've had from the time we talked about the archives of the internet. That's a worthy discussion by itself.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Stephanie.
Yes, yes.
Oh, you had your hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'd already talked. And
No,
that's supposed to be up anymore. But somebody found that it is called the Dictionary of Untranslatables or something. I think Valentina found it. Yeah, it's in the chat. She put it in the chat, I think.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's excellent. We will save the chat. Patrick, I believe you had something. We need to round off soon, but this is just amazing.
No. I mean, just very briefly, is that, you know, this idea of net ephemerality. I have a very simple artwork that points towards Oncora's date paintings that basically were just an index of his being alive. I do think there's a artwork I have called After Oncora that is just basically come up. It shows the date and it says still online, and you know the whole note of the whole piece is just a matter that this artwork is a performance talking about net ephemerality until either I die, the net is destroyed by a massive nuclear attack, or I stop paying for it, you know, and that's it. In other words, it's just an index about, you know, larger commentaries on net culture. And, you know, it's a very simple gesture, and it tells how long it's been up.
That's very cool. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I think we should wrap up, but are there any, okay, so what we have decided, we need to go about the inclusivity. We also need to talk about the actual medium of the book. yeah, of course, we shouldn't just have a normal printed book, no question. How about those of you who have time and inclination, start meeting for Monday or Friday meetings, and after a while, we'll probably decide which meeting has as what main dialogue, or are there any other suggestions for how to move forward? I will, of course, email this suggestion to the rest of the group as well. Oh, there's one thumbs up, a couple of shaking heads, that's good. I mean, one thing that's kind of important, and we should probably have said in the beginning, is we are the ones who own the future of text because we give a damn. And anyone else who gives a damn also owns the future of text. It really is not more complicated than that, is it? So I'm very grateful for you being here, and I'm very grateful for the way we're going to try to increase awareness. I mean, now there's only a few of you left. You remember the environmental movement started with a book called, what was it, Silent Spring? Imagine if we managed to create a movement to start awareness of the environment of text. We talk a little superficially about fake news and so on. But what about the rest of it? What about information literacy and all these other things? If we get a varied NOC point of view through what we're doing here, we could probably do that. So thank you for today. Thank you very, very much. And please feel free to email, and I look forward to seeing some of you on Monday and Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bravo, Valentin.
Thank you, Frode.
Thank you.
Well done, Freud. Thanks, Freud.
Thank you.
Thank you.